So Samantha, it's a pleasure to have you here with us. Thank you very much for this information session.
Of course. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. And thank you to the students who've joined the session and are ready to learn a little bit about STEM education in the USA. I am from the Milwaukee School of Engineering. I'm the Senior Director of International Admissions, and I've been in this space for about 7 years at MSOE. So I know a little bit about STEM and I know a lot about MSOE. So we are going to start the presentation talking about STEM. And then towards the end of the presentation, I'll give you some information on MSOE as well. But of course, we want the focus of this presentation to be on STEM education in the USA generally. So these are the things we'll be talking about today. We'll be talking about STEM majors, types of universities, the application process, tuition and scholarships, and like I mentioned, the Milwaukee School of Engineering at the end of the presentation. And I'm very happy to answer any questions that you have, so feel free to put those in the chat now, or if you have questions at the end of the presentation, I'm happy to answer those as well. So getting started with STEM majors, many of you are probably familiar with STEM and what STEM stands for. It stands for science, technology, engineering, and math. And these are just some examples of some of the majors or the programs that you could pursue within STEM. But we know that there are hundreds of different types of STEM majors. And of course, this field is always expanding with the addition of artificial intelligence and the technologies that are moving us along in our globally technological world. So these are just some examples, and it really extends far past the examples that I have on the screen. One of the unique things about STEM programs is they kind of overlap with each other. So you can see there are some examples of careers or jobs on the screen, and you can see how they overlap into these different areas of engineering, technology, science, and math. So this makes you a very well-rounded student if you are pursuing a degree in STEM, because you're going to have skills that fall within all of these areas, not just one of them. Typically, students who study STEM degrees are passionate about math and science, and you typically are good at those fields, good at those subjects, because that will make you a very successful student within a STEM degree or in a STEM field. So you might be wondering, why should you consider a STEM degree? What are some of the reasons why you might want to get a STEM degree? And really the biggest one is your earning potential or your salary potential. So generally, as you increase your level of education in the United States, your degree earnings or your career earnings are going to increase. So you can see generally salary per year if you just have a high school diploma, and then how it increases if you have a 2-year associate's degree, a 4-year bachelor's degree, or a master's degree or higher. So generally, if you pursue higher education, you're likely going to earn a higher salary. But of course, if you study within STEM specifically, you are likely going to earn a pretty high salary. And on this slide here does talk a little bit about some of our top paying college majors or the college majors that earn the highest salary. And you can see all of them on the screen are STEM programs. So this again shows that you can earn a pretty high salary if you study STEM in the United States. And most STEM jobs have wages or salaries above the national average. STEM jobs are expected to increase over the coming years, again, because of that influence of artificial intelligence and machine learning technology in our global society. And you can also see that most STEM jobs do require a bachelor's degree. So if you do want to study in STEM, you will have to consider getting a higher education degree, a bachelor's degree. But that's not the only reason, right? Salary earnings are a big part of why you would want to study STEM, but there are a lot of other reasons as well. Another one would be a growing career field. So I mentioned how our world is changing and it's changing quickly, and this is creating a lot of jobs within the technology space. So you're always going to have opportunities for career growth in a growing field within STEM. I also mentioned that students who study STEM usually have good skills in math and science. So this means that you're going to be able to move between different careers within STEM pretty easily. So you have a lot of flexibility to move within the market and switch careers to a different type of STEM. So if you think about it, if you study engineering, There are a lot of different types of engineering, so you can move between the different types of engineering fairly easily with a STEM degree or an engineering degree. Job satisfaction. So when students are studying STEM, they usually have a passion for math and science. So this means that your future career will be something that you're passionate about, and hopefully you'll have a lot of job satisfaction. I've already mentioned a few times our technologically advancing world. With the introduction of AI and machine learning, you'll be able to have an impact on our society if you study STEM, AI, or machine learning specifically. And lastly, a very diverse workforce. Because there are so many opportunities opening up within STEM, and because of our globally advancing world, you're always going to be working with others who may be different from you. And this will lead to a very diverse workforce in your future career. One other thing you need to know about is OPT. So OPT, which is called Optional Practical Training, is the work authorization that students receive after they complete a degree in the United States. So students who complete a degree will receive 1 year of OPT, and students who complete a STEM designated program can earn an additional 2 years. So if you study STEM, you can have a total of 3 years of OPT after your degree in the United States. If you decide to complete another degree that's higher than your bachelor's degree, you can also earn additional OPT and STEM OPT. So for example, if you get your master's degree after you finish your bachelor's degree. So it's very important when you're thinking about completing a degree in the United States, if you're interested in that additional work authorization, making sure that the program that you choose is a STEM designated program. Now we'll talk a little bit about internships. Internships are very important, and we encourage all of our students to complete at least one internship during their bachelor's degree. And internships really help you stand out in the field when you're ready to get a full-time job. It doesn't only help you stand out, it does a lot of other things, such as allows you to network with professionals in the industry. It helps you to gain work experience in your field of study, so that way you can put that on your resume. It helps you to test out a future career, so that way you can determine if you liked an internship, maybe you'll want to do that for your full-time job. Career development generally, so that way, again, you can start to build your experiences and put it on your resume. It gives you a competitive edge when you're searching for a full-time job because it shows companies that you have done an internship and that you have experience in the field. Opportunity to earn money. Typically, STEM internships are paid very well, so students can earn sometimes $5,000 or $6,000 over the summer if they're doing an internship. Developing your professional skills and learning how to interact with others in a job setting. And then lastly, transition into a job. If you do a really good job in your internship, some companies might want to hire you full-time so that way they can keep you as an employee when you finish your degree. Another concept that you should be familiar with is STEM return on investment. So return on investment is how much money have I invested into my education versus what will my salary be after I find a full-time job after graduation. And STEM degrees typically provide a very high return on investment. So while the cost of university education in the United States might be high, having a STEM degree will typically provide you with a very high return on the investment that you make into your education. So what do admissions counselors look for on a STEM application? And really, we're looking for academics and non-academics. For academics, we are looking for a challenging academic curriculum. So maybe you are in an AP curriculum or a Cambridge curriculum, anything that shows that you have taken challenging courses is always good. It's not required, it's not necessary, but it's nice to see. We're also looking at your cumulative GPA. This is really the biggest indicator of your academic success in high school, is your GPA. We'll also be looking for challenging or additional math and science courses. So calculus is a great example. Calculus is the foundation of engineering, so we're often looking to see if you've taken this class. Standardized test scores. So this shows the seriousness of the applicant, and also shows if you are, again, academically successful. And AP courses if they're available. Again, it's not necessary, but if you have taken AP courses, it tells us that you likely will be successful at our institution. For non-academics, this would be involvement in STEM extracurricular activities, clubs, or organizations, competition teams like World Robotics, Science Olympiad, or VEX Robotics, and research or internship opportunities. And again, that's not as common to have an internship or research opportunities while in high school, but if you do have the opportunity, it can really make your application stand out. And generally, you should have strong writing skills, which shows that you have a well-rounded application and that you can be successful at the university level. And now we'll briefly talk about types of universities in the United States. So when you're studying higher education or you're pursuing higher education in the United States, you should know the differences between the degrees that you're pursuing. If you're coming from high school, you'll be pursuing an undergraduate degree. So this is often Bachelor of Science, Bachelor of Arts, or Bachelor of Fine Arts. And in order to study in your undergraduate degree, you need to have a high school diploma. And typically the undergraduate degree takes 4 years to complete. Full-time status is 12 credits or above. And once you complete a bachelor's degree, you can choose to go on to get your master's degree or your graduate degree. And this is most often Master of Science or Master of Arts. In order to get your graduate degree, you do have to have a bachelor's degree. And the graduate degree typically takes 2 years to complete with 9 credits or above for full-time status. And after your master's degree, you can continue to further your education in the United States, most often with a doctorate degree. If you're not familiar with regions of the United States, the map on the screen shows that there are a lot of different climates and in different regions across the United States. The United States is very, very large. It takes a really long time to get from one side of the United States to the other. So you have to keep in mind that each region of the United States will have very unique culture, unique climate, and weather patterns. You also need to think a little bit about the cost of living. So if you live on the West Coast or the East Coast, commonly in California or New York City or Boston, it's going to be very expensive to live in these cities. If you're looking for a more affordable cost of living, living in the central part of the United States often will be more cost effective, will be a lower cost of living. So our school is located in the Midwest, and it's fairly affordable to live in this part of the United States. You also need to think a little bit about private versus public institutions. So we have both in the United States, and with over 4,000 different colleges and universities, it's very important that you find the right fit for the university that you want to study at. So when we're talking about public versus private, there are a couple key things that you need to think about. The first is the price of tuition. So typically, private universities are more expensive. They have a higher tuition, but private universities usually give a lot higher scholarships than public universities do. So this can bring the cost down so that it's very comparable with a public university. Also the size. Private universities are typically smaller. That's not always the case, but usually the very large institutions, the very large universities in the United States are public universities. Private universities also have a religious affiliation sometimes, not always, but if you are specifically looking for a religious affiliation or if you specifically do not want a religious affiliation, just keep that in mind. I mentioned that public universities are much larger than private universities, so they are going to have a higher regional student diversity and more degree offerings. A public university might have hundreds of majors that you can choose from, where a private university like MSOE has much fewer majors to choose from. And then lastly, prestige. It's usually assumed that private universities have a higher prestige, but this is not always true. So make sure that you are looking beyond the rankings when you're choosing a university to apply to in the United States. You'll also need to think about class size. So some universities have very large classes and some of them have very small classes. And you want to make sure you understand the differences between a large class and a small class for your experience. You have to think a little bit about what your preferred style of learning is, and if you prefer to be in a class with many students or few students. The smaller the class, typically the easier it is for the professor to give you individual attention and make personalized connections with you. So when you're looking at universities, if you prefer a small class size, you probably shouldn't apply to a university that has thousands and thousands of students that attend. Just something to keep in mind. And then when it comes to the application process, most universities require similar documents to complete your application. So typically a university will ask for your application, your transcripts, your English proficiency, a copy of your passport, and financial documents to show that you can afford the cost of tuition and living expenses. Some universities might ask for some additional documents like standardized test scores, most commonly the ACT or the SAT, letters of recommendation, or a personal statement or an essay. Every university is going to be different, so make sure you talk with the admissions counselor to see which documents are required for that application. Different universities also have different admissions processes. So most commonly, there is regular admission and there is a rolling admission. So for regular admission, students will submit their application and there is a deadline to submit that application. The university will hold all of the applications until that deadline passes, and then they'll make a decision for all of their students who have applied. So with regular admission, you apply, you wait to hear back about your decision, and then once you hear back about your decision, you decide if you want to attend that university. With rolling admission, there is no deadline. So students can apply the entire year, and students are accepted or denied to that university as their application is received. So typically students will apply, they'll hear back within 1 to 2 weeks, and then they'll receive their admission decision. So MSOE has a rolling admission. We accept applications throughout the entire year, and we can give you a decision about your application very quickly. And for cost of attendance, the most important thing with cost of attendance is knowing your financial ability. So knowing how much you can afford for tuition, living expenses, and health insurance for at least 1 year of study. So what should you research? Of course, you should research the cost of tuition and the cost of living at the different universities you're considering applying to. So what is the cost of tuition for the year? What are the fees that are associated with the tuition? And what are the living expenses to live on campus in that city? You should also research the scholarship opportunities from that university. Do they offer merit-based scholarships? Do they offer need-based scholarships? Do they offer both? Do they offer neither? You need to understand what types of aid that university is able to give to their students. Health insurance is typically required in the United States, and the cost of health insurance can be a little bit high, so make sure you factor that into the cost of living. And then lastly, if you are a student who can live off campus, you need to consider what the cost of rent or housing is off campus, the cost of meals, and other miscellaneous costs like transportation. And lastly, for financial aid, there are a few terms that you should be familiar with. First is scholarship. So scholarship is money that does not need to be paid back, and this is often awarded to students based on merit, need, or talent. Most universities in the United States do not offer need-based aid to international students. It's very common to offer merit-based aid, merit-based scholarships. Grant. Grant is money that also does not need to be paid back, but this is typically given to the student from the government or from the university, and it's need-based. So as I mentioned, this is not very common for international students, but you can check with the institution to see if they have need-based aid. Loan. This is borrowing money that must be paid back later with interest. And if you are wanting to take out a loan in the United States, you need to have a US cosigner to take out that loan. Work study. Work study is money that is earned by working part-time at the university up to 20 hours per week. And paid internship. This is money that can be earned by utilizing CPT, curricular practical training, and this is often used during the summer in your specialized field. So this is an internship opportunity during the summer or during the academic year where you can earn money. Some students might also have an opportunity to get government aid from their home country, so scholarships from their home country or loans from a bank in their home country. As a reminder, in the US, you have to have a US cosigner, which can be difficult to find if you don't have any relatives living in the United States. And that is the information about STEM education in the United States. Now I'm briefly going to go over some information about MSOE, so that way you can learn a little bit more about the university. If you have questions about the first part of the presentation, I'm happy to answer those at the end. So I will quickly go through this information. MSOE is very well known in the United States for our engineering programs. We are ranked number 9 in the United States for best engineering programs. And you can see that we also have 2 engineering programs ranked individually. So civil engineering and mechanical engineering are ranked in the top 15 across the United States. And as I mentioned, there are 4,000 universities in the US, so this is a very high ranking for engineering. MSOE is a small private university with just under 3,000 students in total, with about 140 international students from 40 different countries. Because we are a small school, our student to professor ratio is 12:1, and we have about 20 students per class size, which is very small in the United States. And our labs are about 12 to 15 students. So ensuring that you get individual attention in the classroom from your professors to make you successful once you graduate. If you're not familiar with where we're located, we are in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, which is the Midwest Great Lakes region of the United States. So it's in the middle part of the United States. Milwaukee is very large, with a population of about 1.6 million people, and we are very close to Chicago. We're about a 90-minute drive north of Chicago. Wisconsin is known as the dairy state because we produce a lot of milk and cheese products, and generally, it's a very beautiful place to live. We do experience all 4 seasons, so that is something to consider when you're looking at the different regions in the United States. When you're looking at the different academic programs that we offer, we are most well known for our engineering programs, and we have biomedical engineering, chemical and biomolecular engineering, electrical engineering, industrial engineering, and the most popular program we offer, which is mechanical engineering. We are also very well known for our computer programs, and that's because we have a very close partnership with NVIDIA. So if you're familiar with NVIDIA, it is the largest computer company in the world, and we actually have an NVIDIA supercomputer on our campus that focuses on artificial intelligence and machine learning. So you can actually see in the background of the computer engineering photo here, that is Rosie, our supercomputer. We also have a very strong computer science program, software engineering, and user experience alongside of computer engineering. We also have a very strong math program called actuarial science. And we have 5 business programs. So if you're more interested in business, we also offer those programs to our students. You can see we have accounting, finance, management, marketing, and operations and systems management. We also have a 4-year nursing program, and nursing is very popular in the United States. Very good jobs are associated with nursing, so if you're interested in the medical field, it could be good for you. And then lastly, we have building and construction, which includes architectural engineering, civil engineering, and construction management. So you might be wondering, why is MSOE different? Why are we a different university than other STEM universities, engineering universities, or in general, another private university in the United States? So first, we are a very hands-on university. So we have an application-oriented curriculum, meaning we're extremely hands-on. We make sure that our students have all of the experiences in our state-of-the-art labs to ensure that they are prepared for graduation and successful in getting a job. We're also direct entry. So this means that we have a very small number of general education classes that are required in the curriculum. And instead, our students are taking program-specific classes like calculus, physics, chemistry, engineering, among many other science courses. We also give you admission directly into the program that you choose right away from day one. We also have a year-long senior design project, which is a project the student works on in the senior year, and they can actually work with a company in Milwaukee who will sponsor the project for the student. And I also mentioned the small class sizes, so 15 to 25 students and individual attention from professors. A little bit more about how we teach. We are an industry preparation university, so we are a trusted partner to leading industry professionals in the Midwest and across the United States. So you can see just some of the companies that really look to hire our students for internships and full-time jobs, one of them being Harley-Davidson, which is located in Milwaukee. About 80% of our students do at least one internship, but most of our students will do more than one. And our professors are content experts with industry experience to really prepare our students to have real-world experiences and be prepared to enter the industry. Quickly, I'll talk a little bit about jobs. This does connect back to what we were discussing earlier. Students can work on campus in the United States up to 20 hours per week at any institution. And then they can use their CPT and OPT work authorization for a summer internship, and then their full-time job once they complete their bachelor's degree. And in the chart in the bottom, you can see that most of our programs have the STEM OPT 2-year extension. So you can live and work in the United States up to 3 years. There's lots of opportunities to be involved. Most commonly is organizations and professional societies. So you can see just some examples of some of our organizations that we have for our students to join, many of which are STEM related. We also have lots of campus celebrations and traditions. So you can see some examples there of different events that we host every year to make sure that our students feel celebrated and involved in the campus. And then international student services and study abroad. So these are services that are dedicated specifically to our international students to make sure that they are staying in status and that they feel comfortable and supported in the United States. And our students can also study abroad. So you can go to any one of our destinations for a semester or a year and study abroad. And then lastly, we do offer very strong career services. We are very focused on getting a job and getting an internship for our students. So we have an office on campus that is dedicated to those services. So that is creating a resume and a cover letter, practicing your interview skills, developing networking skills, searching for internships and jobs, and salary negotiations. So every year we have 2 very large career fairs on campus to help connect you with these companies to make sure that you are receiving the most support that you can have when finding a job. MSOE was recently ranked as number 12 out of 500 as best US colleges for high salaries. So very strong career services, making sure that you have all of the opportunities to get an internship and job. So lastly is the cost of attendance. And you can see with tuition, living expenses, and health insurance, we are just under $70,000 per year. But what's important to know is that all of our international students will receive a merit scholarship up to $32,000 per year. So this is a pretty high scholarship. It's about a 50% tuition scholarship, and it will bring your costs down closer to about $40,000 per year for everything. I mentioned that return on investment is very important, and our return on investment is about 98% job outcome rate with a starting salary over $75,000 per year. And lastly, these are our admission requirements. So it's a free application on our website. It takes about 15 minutes to apply, and we need to see your transcripts and your English proficiency exam. So we accept the TOEFL, the IELTS, the Duolingo, or the PTE, and we're looking for a 3.0 cumulative GPA or higher. The ACT/SAT is not required, but it is recommended, and students who apply should have a strong math and science background to be successful. After you're admitted, you do need to submit your financial documents and a copy of your passport. So lastly, what are the steps to studying in the United States? First is do your research. Understand which program you're interested in. Understand which universities you're interested in. Know where those universities are located and know your financial ability. Second is applying. Submit your application and your required documents. Apply for housing and review the scholarships and aid offered by that university. Third, after you're accepted to the university, you'll need to submit your financial documents so you can receive your I-20 document. You'll need to apply for your visa, prepare for your visa appointment, and attend that visa appointment. Fourth is complete the needed procedures before arrival. So once you have your visa, you've chosen your university, you need to submit any final documents the university is asking for, submitting health information, or taking placement exams like an English language exam or a math exam that the university requires. And lastly is make travel arrangements and enjoy your university experience in the United States. And at this time, I will turn it over for questions, and I will also put my information directly on the screen. So you can see our application is listed and then my direct contact information, including my email address and my WhatsApp. So at this time, if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat, or if you're on the microphone, you can say your questions out loud as well. All right, I have a question. What is a competitive SAT score? So every university will be different. Some universities require the SAT, but many do not. After COVID, it became a little difficult for students to take the SAT, so many institutions went to test optional. So if you are applying to a highly competitive, highly selective university, anything over 1400 is a great score. That doesn't mean that a score in 1300 or 1200 is not good. It's just a highly competitive score would probably be over 1400. But as a reminder, most universities do not require the SAT. So it is great to take the SAT because it will be a great show of proof at your visa appointment that you understand the US education system, you understand that SAT is a standardized test that you need to take to get into certain universities. So that will help you in your visa appointment, but it might not be required for admission. Any other questions? You can always email me too after the webinar or send me a WhatsApp if you have specific questions. If you're interested in MSOE, I do encourage you to apply because it is free, right? There's a question about the TOEFL. Yes, so for MSOE, our TOEFL score is 82 or above. And then in each one of those band areas, those specific areas, you have to have above a 19. Again, all institutions will be different. Some institutions will have a lower TOEFL score or a higher requirement. So just make sure you look at the website to understand those requirements.
We get this question a lot when students are interested in these kind of institutions, and some of them come from high schools that focus on humanities or social sciences, and they ask us directly if that places them in disadvantage when they apply to a university like MSOE.
So it will not place you at any disadvantage if you're applying to a school like MSOE. We understand that every school has a different curriculum, every high school. And some high schools maybe don't have as many STEM courses, or they're not a STEM focused school, and that does not disqualify you for admission. So at a university like MSOE, we are looking at your GPA. We're looking to make sure that you'll be successful at MSOE. And if you have higher level math and science courses, that's great. That's going to prepare you to be a good student, but it does not disqualify you for admission. Now, if you're applying to highly selective schools, top ranked schools, that probably will have an effect on your application. But we're talking about like Harvard and Yale and all of those types of schools. But at all the other schools in the United States, at the other universities, typically we do not look to see what curriculum you had or which high school you were taught at to determine if you should be admitted.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. So we have a question about self-reporting scores, and I'm assuming that is English proficiency scores. So when you apply for admission to MSOE, you can email your scores to us. So you can take a screenshot or you can send us a PDF copy of your scores, but you will need to make sure that it is an official score through TOEFL or IELTS. So that way we can log on to the website and check to make sure it's a valid test. So you can send us a screenshot or a copy. But you cannot just like type your scores in an email and send it to us. We have to be able to look it up on the website. Any other questions that I can help you with? Here's a question about the SAT score. So MSOE does not require the SAT. We do not include it in our admission decision. So you can send us a copy of your SAT if you've taken the SAT, but it will not determine if you're admitted to MSOE. That determination is from your GPA. So as long as your GPA is over 3.0, that is what we'll use for admission. And then the higher your GPA, the higher your scholarship. So if you're admitted with a 3.0, you'll receive the lower tier scholarship, but then as your GPA increases, you'll get more scholarship. Here's a good question. So is it better to show a wider variety of extracurriculars or more STEM-focused extracurriculars? So again, it kind of depends on which type of institution you're applying to. Again, if you're applying to those really highly selective universities in the United States, having a wide variety of extracurriculars typically will be beneficial for you because it will show that you have leadership in many different spaces, right? If you're applying to a school like ours, it's probably good that you have a lot of STEM-focused extracurriculars because then that really shows us that you would be a great student at MSOE because we are so focused on STEM technology programs. Great questions. Thank you, everyone. All right, if you have any other questions, feel free to put them in the chat now, and I'm happy to answer those. It looks like we're winding down with questions here.
Sometimes questions come like later. So I think it's great that you have all your information there and they can reach you out directly. That's great for us.
Yeah, here's one more that just got put in the chat. So, does MSOE require a senior year project in order to graduate in a business program? So yes, all of our programs require a senior project, and in the business school, it's called a capstone project. So it is basically an accumulation of everything that you learned over your first 3 years, and you produce this project that is a capstone, right? So it's kind of like a final project. And the capstone project is really nice for 2 reasons. First is sometimes you can work directly with a company on that project. If they have a project that they would like students to work on, they'll ask some of our students to work on those. And then second, you can actually put your capstone project on your resume when you start to apply for full-time jobs. Here's another question about the IB diploma. So does the IB diploma help? So again, if you're applying to some of those highly selective universities in the United States, having the IB diploma often will help you because it shows that you have a challenging curriculum, right? You've studied in the International Baccalaureate degree or program. For a school like ours, it really doesn't benefit you in a significant way, other than you're going to be very prepared for your classes. It does not change our admissions criteria. It does not make your application more favorable. As long as your GPA meets the requirements, you'll be admitted just like any other student on another curriculum would be admitted. One difference is that sometimes universities will offer credit for certain IB classes. All right. Well, thank you everyone so much. Thank you for your questions. And if you have more questions, feel free, of course, to reach out to Education USA. They're always happy to help you and make sure that you are on the right track and that you have your applications filled out correctly. But you can also reach out directly to me if you're interested in MSOE.
So today we have actually students from Argentina, Uruguay, and Paraguay.
Wonderful.
So that's great because, sometimes these efforts of trying to reach our students in one country is okay, but the more the merrier, right? It's
Right,
it's great that they have the chance to learn a little bit more about an institution like this one.
right, right. Well, thank you. Thank you for your time. And I look forward to speaking maybe with some of you in the future if you decide to apply.
Thank you, Samantha. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Be
Thanks,
in touch.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.